go ahead and go through, like I said, the updates to Metrc, everything that we know as far as timelines, how we'll be able to transition you to Metrc and what you can expect. Some features that Canix can provide in addition to Metrc to help run your business around just the regulations that Metrc's going to be providing. Some new features that have come out that you may or may not have seen, as well as some stuff that's come out today that's going to help a lot around sales. And I think that inventory management will be great to show in a little bit here. And lastly, as I mentioned, any questions, use that Q&A section above the top there, and I'll go ahead and keep my eye on that. Great. So some of the updates that we've heard from Metrc, Metrc's integration will be live mid-February. Canix already has this built out, so as soon as Metrc is ready, we'll be able to connect right into it for you. Anything that we've heard as far as how that's going to integrate with Oklahoma directly is that they are not going to be integrating with Metrc, or they haven't come out with their timeline for the mid-February timeline. So they're actually going to be looking at that in a few, probably mid-March is the timeline that we've heard, that they'll be fully integrated with Metrc, and that's when you'll be able to utilize Metrc yourself. Canix is going to be automating a lot of the inputs that you need to do in Metrc, but also we're going to be able to help around bulk uploading the inventory and the items, strains, and locations, things like that, to get you started in Metrc so that you aren't duplicating these efforts. We'll go through some of those things here on this Metrc prepared page that you'll be able to access after this call as well. And this allows you to see, to make sure that you've followed this checklist or that you're ready to go when Metrc is live. So obviously the first step here is to come to this webinar to get an update on where we're at and where Metrc is at, but also some additional things like making sure once Metrc is live that you have the correct steps to get the API keys, to give us the information that we need to bulk upload your strains, rooms, and items to your Metrc account, and then to take a look at some of our new features that will be coming out. Just to kind of give an idea about the Metrc integration, Canix currently supports about 1,000 facilities across 7 states. All of those Metrc integrated states have really relied on our Metrc integration, and a lot of them have transferred to Canix for the Metrc integration. In order to keep that stable and be able to submit that confidently to Metrc and make sure that what is in Canix is going to be reflected, has been really important for our customers, and they've seen a lot of success with that integration. But just to kind of give you an idea of the verticals that we're supporting and some of the bigger names that you may recognize in the industry. One question was about Metrc's additional fee. What we've heard so far is that it'll be a $40 a month subscription for Metrc, and then additional fees for tags. The tags cost 40 cents a tag, and those tags are both plant tags and package tags. And all of those tags are RFID enabled, which is one thing that we're able to help with above Metrc as well, which is a lot of the automation around harvesting and inputs now that these tags have some additional functionality than you guys may be using in your facilities today. For example, the RFID integration, which is actually down here, allows you to stand a little bit further away from the tag. You don't have to try to line up a barcode, and that will populate the tag numbers for you in Canix as you either decide to integrate with the Bluetooth scale to fully kind of automate those inputs, or whether you are scanning each tag with that RFID wand and entering the weight yourself. But another big feature above Metrc is the sales orders and invoicing. So we'll be covering in a little bit, in a few slides here, our live inventory that we have available, as well as some task management and the additional features that we've come out around invoicing and sales orders. Metrc and Canix, you may wonder, if you're already paying for Metrc, what really is the value of needing to have both systems? And Metrc is really focused on providing certain services to you guys as customers, especially tags as a service, but they're really focused on providing services to the state as their customer so that they're able to provide those regulations and compliance information from that standpoint. Canix has a different service or a different view in mind with their customers. So as you guys utilize their tags. We do provide other systems like custom tags, and we'll go through some of the new functionality for that as well. But Metrc doesn't have Oklahoma compliant warning symbols or any labels like that that are required. They're just for the transfer purposes. So that's just kind of one example of how they may treat certain actions or certain inputs slightly differently than what you are currently experiencing in Canix. Canix is also really here to help you guys optimize more of the business side and providing these features around that. So allowing you to do things as efficiently as possible and trying to put as much of that input into action for you guys. Things like coming out with new business intelligence reporting so that you can start to slice and dice your sales data or your harvest data differently. We have cultivation forecasts being worked on at the moment to be able to predict wet weights and dry weights for your future based on the plantings that you have. So when you should be able to expect those future yields. And then, as I mentioned, task management to really try to predict when you should be scheduling certain labor or when you have certain deliveries coming up, harvests, those kind of things. So you can try to map those out throughout the month rather than have them all piled up on one day that you may not be recognizing. On top of Metrc, we integrate with a few other things as well. You may have a LeafLink account where you're selling your inventory at the moment. We'll be going through our live inventory marketplace, which is kind of similar, but we do integrate with LeafLink as well to automate creating sales orders and being able to manage the customers, the inventory, things like that through Canix after they've placed that initial order. We also integrate with QuickBooks. So whether you have the desktop or enterprise version or whether you have the online version, you can connect to that through your integration section in Canix. And that allows you to create invoices in QuickBooks from your sales orders. That also allows you to record your payments and be able to manage anything directly in QuickBooks after you've created those sales orders. And then lastly, on-fleet integration. So if you do use this as your last mile service, this allows you to create on-fleet tasks directly from Canix transfers. So that will provide the driver, the package information, everything that you may track in on-fleet and be able to schedule and manage your deliveries on that site. But we'll be covering custom labels. So both packaging or new plant labels, being able to auto-generate some additional information than what you may have seen in the past. And then also being able to custom format those labels so that they can have text smaller or bigger, depending on the size of labels that you guys have. We'll show some of the new cultivation features like notes around plants, harvests, and strains. The processing module, if there's any processors here, or if you want to track in a little bit more detail how your packaging material and where the waste and how you're converting those packages are. And then the sales order additions. If you utilize sales orders today, you may have noticed quite a few changes in the past few weeks, maybe even the past few months, but we've come out with quite a few changes to that as well. And lastly, user permissions and our business intelligence reporting that I mentioned. This business intelligence reporting is something additional to your current license. If this is something that you're interested in using, definitely reach out to us after this as well, or talk to your sales rep about it when you discuss your Metrc contract. And that will allow you to get a little bit deeper insight into your sales, harvests, cultivation, everything that I had mentioned previously around that. And we'll go through what you can expect from those different reports. Great. So in Canix, now if you were to log in and go to your tags and labels section, you'll see if you click on print labels, you have some additional options, and one of them will be custom labels. Under these custom labels, you're able to save templates. So you can label these by product. Maybe you have different ones for jars versus pre-rolls versus bulk. And then you can also have different, choose which tag you would like to look up as well. You can leave the number of labels blank, and this will just print out this one package tag that you decide to utilize. Or you can enter that you want maybe 5 or however many labels generated in the sequence, and we'll count out that ending tag number for you. From here, you can add additional fields. So if you want the weight of the plant or the weight of the package, what you may be selling. And then you can have the number with a barcode or without a barcode or a QR code, depending on how big this package is going to be. And you can also add warning symbols or any additional information around testing, or sorry, around harvest information that you have here. Through Metrc, you'll also be able to receive things like testing information that's available in Metrc, packaging information, anything like that that is currently going to be available across licenses within Metrc that you may not be experiencing today, since those don't really have a central location within Oklahoma. So all of that will now be available for you, and you're also able to add additional text fields. So if you need to add additional messaging or anything custom that you want within your label, you can add that here. And then I mentioned that you can increase or decrease this text depending on the size of your label here. You can upload a logo or any other symbols that you want on this label and be able to change these label dimensions to align with whatever printer size that you have. And this will now work with more flexible printers as well. Maybe you have additional printers that you've been wanting to use that you weren't able to set up previously. Now you can set up your printer. Come here to this, how do I add a printer? And it gives you the instructions on how to install what's necessary to operate with that printer. Great. Another thing that's come out recently, as I mentioned, we'll cover the cultivation notes. So some of those notes, let me move to that. Some of those notes starting down here under admin, you can find under your facility data and your strains. So these cultivation notes here, you can leave on the strain level or at the plant batch or plant level. But this allows you to click into your strains, identify any cross strains that you may want as well. And all of this will be saved on the strain. This is not available or doesn't push through to Metrc. Metrc doesn't have this kind of concept, but it is something visible to you here in Canix if needed. Under your plant section, you may have also noticed your plant notes. If you've already been using plant batches, or if you're new to Canix, you can come to this plant batches active report. And this allows you to click into any of your plant batches and add these notes here. You can just save this for any future review, since that will transfer over to your inactive batches, and you can go back and look at this historically. A question was around why would you print labels if you are receiving labels from Metrc? Great question. So Metrc only provides the required labels for transport or for planting, but it doesn't necessarily provide the additional information or allow you to customize that in any way. So if you are trying to print any state regulated labels that need the warning symbol, or if you're trying to provide additional information on your plant or package tags for your inventory team, none of that will be available on the tags themselves. So we have a new processing section down here, which allows you to add different run types or essentially categories of steps that you may be running throughout the processing stage. So it may be things like extraction, it may be things like packaging or rolling your pre-rolls, trimming, whatever it may be that you want to track. And this allows you to create these batches that with templates, for example, or ad hoc, you're able to set up a series of steps in this process. So as simple as just one step in the process, or a little more complicated to say you want to track your material throughout 5 steps in the process. All of that can be tracked throughout this module. It allows you to see the total amount of source that you added into a particular batch, what was the output of that, whether there was additional waste or whether it was converted into an oil or an edible, and then any COGS associated with that, if that was on our package. If we created templates, or if we created this ad hoc, you can see that the steps will just fill in here. And this allows us to click into any step and add the material that we want to utilize as our sources, our outputs, and our waste. In addition, you'll see any non-cannabis material here. Whether you use this manufacturing or processing module, or whether you're just using our existing packages module, these recipes can be utilized in Canix to deduct non-cannabis inventory as you create each package. So in this case, if we were creating eighths, every time we create an eighth, it would deduct a jar and it would enter a certain amount of labor. And that's just something that we created with our non-cannabis recipes previously. But all of this isn't something that Metrc would provide. They don't have anything around non-cannabis inventory, and they don't have any additional steps that would report on this or allow you to track this in a little more granular of detail. To finish up in this processing module here, as you add your outputs, this auto generates the next available package tag for you in Metrc, from Metrc, and it'll show you the amount of weight that you're pulling from the sources. You can give it a new item. So for example, if this was our bulk flour or trim that we're turning into an extract or a pre-roll, we can search for that pre-roll here and assign this new package a new item. This allows us to say how many we're creating and could be an output from this particular batch if we wanted. And you'll also see under inventory that there'll be a new option for you for live inventory. This will be coming out in the next few weeks, I believe. We can send some updated timelines with our message that we'll send afterwards. But this allows you to set up a shop and to decide which inventory you would like for customers to be able to view. This is something that you would be able to pull up on your phone or on your tablet, and you'll see under your facility data that you can promote these items to your shop. So we could come here. Oops, let me go to our shop. So for our facility, we'd be able to come in here and we'd be able to create a shop listing. This would allow us to create a name that we want to show in our shop, the description for what you would like customers to see. And then as you have available quantity for that item or as you create packages with that item in Canix, we'll display the available quantity in your shop for you. We'll transfer over to that shop in a second to see what that looks like. You're able to upload some photos. So if you want to show photos of the product or if you want to leave it blank, that's your option as well. And then as you create these listings, customers will be able to, like I showed just a second ago, be able to have a password to your shop. So you'll be able to create a URL and a password. And as you email that password and that shop URL to customers, they can log in and see what you have for available inventory currently. What that looks like as you add items would look like this. You have your pictures. You can have customers click into the details and see the available quantity. If you want to add a price per pound or per gram or whatever it may be, you can put that in the description, but we have heard mixed reviews as far as whether people wanted to include that or not. So we would love to hear from you guys as far as what you would like to share with customers as well as we kind of build that out additionally. Customers can add these to carts, and then they can also place your orders through here. So as you check out, customers will be able to, you'll be able to create sales orders from these orders and be able to keep in contact with them. As we go through some of these sales orders features, you'll see the option to email invoices or share live invoices, and that will allow them to see some additional things from you from the sales perspective. Place those orders in live inventory, or whether you're creating sales orders on your own manually, you can go ahead and go back to your sales order section, create a new order or open up any order that you've created in the past. And you'll see some additional options. The first one being this auto allocate packages feature. So if you didn't have packages allocated and you had additional lines here or just one, you can allocate packages, and Canix will split any bulk packages based on the one that was created the soonest, and will allocate that to your order. Metrc doesn't have any sales orders or any way to track orders. So one of the things in your OMMA report is looking at what you've transferred or tracked. Once material has left your facility in Metrc, there's no way to look back at what you've transferred out previously. So once you've added packages and sold them out of Canix, you're able to also see what you've transferred, as well as under your sales reporting, you're able to see all of the packages and some additional sales information that you've sold. So what that price for the package was, any COGS for that package if you have them allocated to the package as well. A few questions that have come in that I'll quickly answer before I move on is wondering how many different Metrc tags there are. There are two different types of Metrc tags, plant tags and package tags, but Metrc uses the plant tags for both plant batches and plants. So the process would be for you to put one plant tag to one plant batch. That would be a collection of 100 plantings or less. And then as you move growth phases from plant batches to vegetative stage, you would move from that one plant tag and allocate however many plants there are, you would allocate new plant tags to each one of those. Once they move from veg to flowering, those plant tags will remain the same as they were from the veg tag that they had. Let me just read this last question here. The question around packaging. So in Metrc, if you had a package of 10 pounds and then you split that and sold smaller quantities from that 10 pounds, when package tags would be required. A package tag would be required every time the material is separated from the tag. So for example, if you had 10 pounds, you would allocate your package tag to that. And then as you split material, since it's now going to be separated from that original tag, you're going to be assigning that new quantity a package tag. That old package tag can still remain with the remaining quantity. It'll just have a lower quantity associated with it in Metrc. So maybe now it will only have 5 pounds added to that tag number instead of the original 10. A few things to add here as well. If you scroll down, you may not have noticed yet some payment terms. These payment terms will stick around since the last sales order that you created. So if you had net 30 on your last sales order or cash on delivery, that is available here. Or if you have different terms for different customers, you can load your order data and the last terms used for this customer will update if they had different terms or if they had different pricing. You can add your packages here, and this will create a pick list. And what this is a list of either newly split packages or packages that have already been created and just need to be pulled for your order. And this allows the fulfillment team or whoever may be fulfilling these orders to be able to see what the new package tag is and what the source package was, as well as what the quantity that was ordered is so that they can fulfill those packages. This is just for fulfillment purposes. It isn't going to show any pricing or anything like that. That's generally on the invoice, but is there just for fulfillment. There's also some additional invoicing options now. So you have the original download option that you're used to, but you can also send these invoices via email. When you do this, this will bring up your email client on your computer for you to be able to type out your own message. And it'll have a link, or you can attach the downloaded PDF. The link to the invoices looks like this, and this will update as you create updates in Canix or update the status. You can always generate new invoices from your sales order and generate new links to send to your customers with any updates, but they also have the option to download this as a PDF from here themselves. They'll see if you had any packages allocated to this, you can have that generated on here, but they're able to see all of the items, the price per item, and the total price, just like they would normally. And lastly, some additional information around sales and customers. As you promote customers from your prospective list, you'll be able to see your current customers that you've sold to, how much you've sold to them, and any files that you may want to attach to them. If we were to look at one that had previous orders, we're able to add any additional information or notes here. We can add credits to this account to be able to apply to sales orders. And then we can see all of the past orders that this customer may have received. You can also assign sales reps to these customers, so that way sales reps can manage all of this on their own, leave any notes about these orders or anything that they may want to reference again in the future. From some of those sales reporting, I mentioned that you're able to come down here, and this may be some additional information that you want for your own reporting or for OMMA reporting, but it's also something that you won't be able to find once you transition to Metrc outside of Canix. This allows you to see for what month you've sold certain inventory, what items or customers you've sold, and the quantities for those. This is a bit more detailed in our business intelligence insights, and that allows you to sort and filter by different metrics. This allows you to see by item name, the different categories, and coming soon with our cultivation forecasting will allow you to see item subcategories like A buds, popcorn buds, whatever you break these down additionally by, and be able to see those split out, as well as how much you've sold over a certain period of time and how much of that material that you've sold. So you have different delivery dates here. You can see different time granularities, while most of the stuff that you may be looking at maybe by month like you have in Canix, you can also see more detailed views and you'd be able to download the tables behind these. You can look at particular customers or item names. And if we selected one of these to update, you would be able to manipulate or kind of filter these and drill them down a little bit further to see what's been sold and by who. Great. The last thing that I wanted to cover was around user permissions. If you haven't navigated yet under admin user permissions, this allows you to create different user groups. So whether you have a cultivation team that you just want to show certain areas of the product like plants and harvests to, or whether you have just sales teams that you want to show just sales orders or inventory availability to, all of that can be limited by creating these new groups. If you give them full access, that means they have access to edit or view any of these things. And no access means that it removes it completely from their menu options. So if we created a sales one without plants and harvest access, they would only see things that they have full access to here in the menu. You also have the ability to break sales down a little further. Maybe you only want them to see sales orders and inventory availability to be able to sell things. That can all be configured here as well. And after you've given it a name and saved it, you can apply that to your different users under user management. We can come in here, and now we can give them different permissions based on what we want them to utilize. This allows you to have more employees utilizing and entering information into Canix, but not having that translate directly into Metrc or giving them their own Metrc account. It also allows you for each user to decide whether you want them to have an option to require their review before you submit to Metrc. Since Metrc once it's submitted to Metrc, it's very finalized and hard to reverse. You can have an option to review everything before it gets sent to Metrc so that you kind of have one last check to make sure that all of the inventory or numbers are going to be correct going into Canix or going into Metrc. So once you have Metrc access, you'll have this option available to your users, and then you as admins will have a little bit more oversight as to what they can do. To bring up what engineering is currently working on around task management, this will allow you to create a set of workflows or individual tasks and assign them to employees, and allow you to track time, non-cannabis ingredients, employee time, things like that, over the course of many months and planning out into the future as to what labor you may need at a certain point in time. This allows you to add tasks that will track kind of these overarching categories, like maybe you're looking at everything from a harvest, everything requiring trimming or delivery. You can have it recurring or just a one-time thing, and you can assign users to it. And as users are assigned, they'll have tasks within their own accounts. So these users can go and see what they're assigned to, but you as an admin can see everybody's tasks, what they've completed in a certain amount of time. And then as you have your inventory here, you could say, these are the plant batches that I want somebody to manage. I'm going to select these new plant batches and assign them to a particular user to either have this one task or to assign a set of workflow tasks that we just created, like cultivation tasks. All of this will end up on a calendar and a task list for you to manage, so you can see over the course of that month when you're expected to have deliveries, when you need trimmers to be in place for certain harvests, or how often you need to be watering things. All of that can be visible at a higher level, or drilling into something a little more detailed to see either one particular user or one particular category, and being able to manage it from that perspective. Some additional things that we're working on this quarter as well is non-cannabis inventory tracking. So right now we have our non-cannabis inventory and recipes so that you can deduct your inventory like jars or boxes or any kind of labeling, anything like that as your packaging. But it'll go a step further, allowing you to also sell non-cannabis inventory like batteries or t-shirts, anything like that that you may have, as well as track in additional detail with task management how much non-cannabis inventory is being used throughout your process. Canix is also working on cultivation forecasting. So as I mentioned earlier, being able to plan out what you can expect from cultivation yields. So both wet weights as well as dried weights like popcorn bud, A bud, trim, flower, anything like that as it relates to previous harvest for that strain. I see a few questions here, so let me take a look, but I also have a question for you guys as if anybody is interested in answering it or wants to follow up afterwards with it. For your cultivation forecasting, as you plan out what you expect to have as yields, are you planning this out by strain, or are you guys expecting this to be different by room, or conditions changing very drastically between room to give you different yields? We're working directly or initially on providing inputs by strain to be able to forecast by strain. But if that is something that becomes popular in the industry to also forecast by room, then we can certainly discuss that further and we'll be able to add that in. So let me take a look at some of the things people have asked recently. Great. So the first question is around what can Metrc see, and that I mentioned that Canix, anything in Canix can be seen in Metrc. What I mean by that is any inventory that you have in Canix, so any plants or packages that you have, any harvests, those can all be seen by Metrc because those are all Metrc inventory as well. Anything additional to Metrc, like reporting that's anything specific to Canix that looks like our reporting, for example. This is all based on data around Metrc, but allowing you to see additional information like notes, calculations that we're doing for you, some additional dates. The reporting in Metrc is not going to be laid out like this. It's going to be much more grid-like and harder to visualize. It's more so there. Sorry, let me share my screen again. It's more so there just to enter the information that you need for compliance to say I have a certain number of plants listed under this tag, or I have a certain number of plants in a room, not necessarily to dig into some of the analytics or to see what mother plant, things like that they came from. As I go through here, there's one more question around where you apply tags at throughout the process and how you change those tags. As I go through that, I'll mention some things as well as far as what's in Canix directly versus not in Metrc as well. So the first step around using tags, the first one would be under this plant batches phase. So as you create new plant batches, either from mother plants or from clones or seeds or packages of clones or seeds, that is when you'll create one plant tag for a set of 100 plants or less. This will give you a new batch tag. It'll come from a specific mother tag, or if you were planting it from a package of clones or from clones within your inventory. That will be one plant tag from Metrc. All of these tags here would be individual Metrc tags related to a certain count, up until a certain stage of when you change this to change your growth phase to veg. When this is the case, you can select one or multiple And these bulk actions are not available in the same manner in Metrc. So you would be doing kind of one thing at a time in Metrc, or selecting multiple things in Canix and being able to bulk change your growth phase. Didn't want to destroy them. What you would see in Metrc, as I mentioned, is just this inventory. So you would see your tags and the plans for each of those, but you wouldn't necessarily see all of the additional information. In this update growth phase, this is where you would apply new plant tags from Metrc. So you have this individual plant tag for a specific number of plants in this batch. But now as we enter a new plant tag, we could say that we want this batch to start at a certain tag number, and it would count out up from that tag. Each plant here, each 4 plants would now get a new tag under this veg stage, and that would be a new plant tag from Metrc. So altogether for this batch, we're up to 5 tags, 1 for the initial collection of plants, and then 1 for each plant when it moves to the vegetative growth phase. Once they've been moved to veg, you'll see in Canix under vegetative tract. This is where each of those plants has their individual tag number. And as you move these plants to flowering, they're going to keep the same number in Metrc, so you don't need to give them a new tag number. They'll just change statuses in Metrc from vegetative to flowering. At that point, you'll be harvesting your plants, and anything that you package from these plants, from this harvest, will be a new package tag. So it'll be an initial bulk package from a certain harvest. That will be 1 package tag. And then as you break that package down into smaller quantities, those will all be additional package tags. Metrc will require that you go through a training with Metrc in order to get access to your license. That will go through the additional information as well, and that will be something that provides just additional visibility into what they're going to require from their system. And then you can always go through additional training with Canix if you'd like, to be able to see how you can automate that a little faster once you see how you input that in Metrc. Great questions. Did that answer your question around the tagging statuses, or any other questions around tagging? Seems to be something that has quite a few questions for people, or maybe not as clear for people. So that's great feedback as well that I can bring back to the team. And as we come out with some of our larger webinar trainings, you'll be able to dig a little bit deeper into the tagging and the different growth phases. Any additional questions? Got it. Yeah, for anybody who's just starting in Canix, it may be kind of a new world to start tracking all of this compliance. So definitely feel free to access our help center here. And this will provide steps if you're not sure of what to do in Canix in general, but also if you want to get an idea of what Metrc requires, you could always look at similar steps for things like Oregon or other Metrc states like California. Those all have very similar steps. They just may have slightly different nuances if you're interested to see what's slightly different there. You can also contact our team at any point here to leave a message or a ticket with our team, or give us a call to ask any questions. As I mentioned, you're able to set up some additional time with our sales team here, and they can answer any questions, as well as field you to some additional trainings that we'll be having. And those trainings will be covering a lot of the different steps that you need to do in Canix, and they can answer at that time as well how that may be different with Metrc. But they should be very similar from Canix to Metrc as you do today. I wouldn't expect a lot of changes or a lot of new things for you to have to learn. Just like you do in Canix today, you switch tag numbers as you change growth phases. Metrc will do the same. It's just they've already printed that tag number out for you. How do Metrc tags attach to outdoor plants? Metrc has plant tags that have holes on either side of the tag, and that allows you to either loop like a tie through, or you can loop the tag around the plant and tie it. So you can use both holes or just one hole, and that's how people are generally utilizing those tags. For package tags, they're sticker tags already, so you can just peel them and put them on that package. A question around when you'll be doing your Metrc training. As Metrc reaches out to you with your license information and login information, they'll be also sending in that same time the emails around training. So you'll be able to sign up through there to get more access to your account and be able to order your tags from that training. Great. Well, as we wind down here, I just want to thank everybody for sticking through it. It's been a good hour and a half of questions and going through some of our features. As we send out this follow-up email, if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our team here or respond to the email that we'll send out. And we can contact you, or you can set up some time through some of those links to be able to set up time with our sales team or with our team to be able to ask questions. And keep your eye out for some additional training webinars throughout the weeks. You'll be able to join some high-level trainings throughout the product each day. And then also any of our Help Center, as we come out with some new training videos and Help Center articles, we'll continue to post all of these here in our Help Center.